My name is Alexis Pavenick, and I am the librarian for English, Comparative World Literature, and Classics at Cal State Long Beach in Long Beach, California. And what I'm presenting with you today, similar to our last show and tell for LILi, is really just an illustration of something we developed at our library over the summer and through this semester. It was a request by the campus. It started with a request by the campus that people in every department volunteer to be technological point people for the rest of their faculty so that we could make this move to remote learning, because we went almost entirely on to remote learning, and we are still in that position, and we will continue as predominantly remote learning all through the spring semester. So I feel confident and comfortable with technology, and I have an associate's degree in web design and interactive media. Thank you very much. So I felt like I could volunteer to be a point person, but the concern that I had was that we were all just incredibly stressed out. It was, and you all know how it was at the beginning of, in the middle of March through the summer. It was really like scattered and very, very difficult to kind of wrap your head around how you were going to approach, how you were going to manage your patrons and help them. And we do a lot of library instruction at Cal State Long Beach, so we had to really get people on board with doing Zoom and trying different online tools and techniques to present information in ways that were not face-to-face. A lot of our faculty were really comfortable with face-to-face. They've been doing it for years, and they just didn't understand how to move forward. So the long and the short of it is, I thought it would be really useful. Kelly Janicek, who's at our library, and she was the president of, is she the current president of Carl? No, she was the president of Carl, right? In California? Can't remember if she is or was. Anyway, she's a librarian at my library. And she suggested this show and tell idea that she had seen or heard about from a different library. And I said, let's do that, but let's not make it about professional development. Let's just do it like we were in a classroom together. I got us a bunch of coffee and donuts, and we're just going to sit down together and go, how does this work? What's the problem? How do I fix it? Let's test it out on each other. And a lot of over talking, a lot of confusion, really at the end of the day, a tremendous amount of laughter, because we're just trying to work stuff out and not getting it, and then finally getting it. And that's what the show and tells became. They became demos for things we thought were useful or working in our online work with students, new softwares we thought would be interesting to try and we wanted to share. And then really just a conversation for an hour about how it works, how it might be useful, and what the problems, the pros and cons were. Super relaxed, no stress environment, which then really spoke to a lot of elements of the ethics of care, because we were really thinking about each other. It was also a place to talk about students we were having issues with and concerns we had and how our days were going. It was a space to come together when we couldn't be together in person. And the last thing that I want to say about it is I was just really incredibly pleasantly surprised that the faculty that we had, faculty that had tensions with each other. They have a lot of our faculty are long timers. They have long relationships with each other that are very tense. They were difficult to put in the same room together in regular life. In these environments, with the understanding that this was a safe space and we were all learning together and we were all in it together, those relationships have actually improved. These people genuinely they respond more kindly to each other, and you can kind of see it in the way they handle each other, in the way they email each other now when we have to do big emails and things like that. People are just more welcoming to each other. And I think the environment itself perhaps enables people to be more gracious and forgiving because we're all struggling. But this was a really great example of how you can turn something to your advantage. We're all on Zoom, we're all at home, and We just wanted to come together and try to work some stuff out between us, and we did it. We had 12 sessions over the semester, and they were all, I mean, they're filled with laughter and a lot of questions and a lot of like, what now? So that's what I'm presenting to you today. And typically I have a co-presenter, Nicollette, my coworker is usually my co-presenter. Nicollette is our business librarian at Cal State Long Beach. And unfortunately she couldn't make it here today. So I'm gonna begin with talking about using whiteboard on Zoom. And then I'm going to transition into, hopefully it'll work. But again, that's what these things are beautiful for, because there's failures all the time. I'm going to hopefully share Nicolette's 8.5-minute video that she made for us about Padlet, and then we can talk about Padlet as well. So I'm going to begin with Zoom's whiteboard. So the first thing I'd like to do is I'd like to share the PDF that I've made that has some screenshots for the whiteboard. So the whiteboard in Zoom functions, so I'm putting this in the chat. This is a link to the PDF document. And Ding has put, oh great, thank you, Ding. She's put it on the LibGuide as well. I'm gonna share it on the screen in a second, but I just wanna say the reason that I made this PDF is there is a lot of stuff in Zoom that only the host can see. And that's a sticky wicket when you're trying to describe it to other people. Now we have learned since the last one that Zoom does have some function where you can show what you're doing, but I didn't invest in that. I was like, I'm going to show you the hard way, because, you know, the hard way is typically the most direct way in some cases. So if you guys have the opportunity to open up that PDF, I'm going to share it on my screen. Let me get it ready to go. And basically it's just screenshots, a compilation of screenshots about what you do to set up the whiteboard. And where is it? There it is. It's meta because, whoop. Do you see it? Does everybody see it? Yes, no? No?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Is it too small? Do you want me to zoom in?
Yes, please.
Okay. So when you set up a Zoom meeting and you're in it, you're about to go into it, one of the things you'll notice at the very bottom, oh, naturally, hold on, is on the share screen, you're about to share the screen. This is how we begin to find whiteboard, because that was the first question we had. Where the heck is it? And as I page down here, oh, naturally it keeps, okay, here we go. On the black ribbon at the bottom, share screen, this little green caret, when you open it up, you need to make sure that multiple participants can share simultaneously. That's a function of the whiteboard. You want people to be able to share on the whiteboard at the same time. So whiteboard is not a euphemism. It's simply a digital version of how you might imagine going up to a whiteboard in a classroom. That's their vision. That's why they call it whiteboard. So it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles. It's basically got a lot of tools that help you to draw on the screen. So the first thing you have to do is enable the multiple participants can share, so everybody can draw on at the same time. Then the second thing is in the extended advanced sharing options, you want to make sure, again, multiple participants and who can share all participants. So just make sure these things are actually selected. I don't have them selected here, but you want to make sure those are selected because you're trying to get everybody involved, and this unblocks them from commenting. Then, as we go down to the next page, come on, page. You're going to choose, so now you're going to select share screen. And then if you go into the options, as you're always looking around for the thing you're trying to share, whiteboard is itself an option. So that's how you get there. Now you can annotate regardless, and I'm going to talk about that. But if you actually want to have the blank screen that everybody can draw on and type on, you're going to choose whiteboard. And then that function comes up. And, oh, I should say later when I share Nicolette's video, when you share a video, if you didn't know this already, you want to select for share computer sound, because that will share the sound of the video. So I'm going to show you a YouTube video. I'm going to select this button when I share that screen, and then you should be able to hear it better. Fingers crossed. Okay, moving along. Oops. Now, this is where it gets intense. So the first thing I'm going to show you is what you can't see, because only the host can see. In the host's ribbon, once you've selected whiteboard and activated it, if you go to the 3 dots more, you have the options to disable participant annotation and show the name of the annotators. This is like the emergency default, like you have students doing bad things or patrons doing bad things. And we're going to talk about this too a little bit in Padlet, because there's these same functions in Padlet. The reason why this is important to remember it's there is we've had experiences at my campus where we've used this kind of stuff in class. So I had a colleague who used Padlet in class, big lecture hall. And she was having them answer on their phones. They were able to access Padlet on their phones, and she was having them put stuff on the Padlet on their phones. And it was 100-something students, and they got into, one of them wrote something really negative, and then it just spiraled out where a handful of them, full of them wrote things that were inappropriate, to say the least. In fact, one of them was a Title IX problem. And she didn't know how to shut it down. She just had to shut the whole thing down and move on. And then it was a big problem. Like the professor had to get involved, and the Title IX people had to get involved, and it was a whole thing. So you really want to know how to nip this stuff in the bud if somebody starts adding stuff to your shared screen that you don't think is correct or appropriate for your discussion. And this is where you do that, in the 3 dots, and that's only for the host or the co-host. However, if you go back over to the annotation options, you will have the option to clear. So you can get to it quickly, but if you really want to stop people, you have to go over to the main ribbon, and only the person in charge can really handle that or manage that. There are questions in the chat. Should I be answering them? Let's see what they are. Chat. Where are my chats? Show chat. I want to show my chat, please. I can't see my chats.
So people were just commenting on the link, and I reposted that in the LibGuide. And Ether does have a question about, if whiteboard is being used in breakout rooms, will the host see what's posted? So breakout rooms.
That's a great question. Okay, I'm going to get to that once we start playing, because we're going to play in just a minute. I just want to show you the stuff you can't see. And yes, I will answer that. Okay, so that's on the major. I'm looking. You see I'm doing it like it's on the screen. Also, if you toggle the button whiteboard, no whiteboard, you basically activate or deactivate it. So you can go back and forth on this main ribbon. Now on the annotation ribbon, these are the things I want you to know. Select reclaims your mouse. It doesn't only have the option to select an object to move it around the whiteboard, but it also reclaims your mouse. And that's important if you're doing something live, because you can also annotate a live screen and you need to get your mouse back to go somewhere. The annotation ribbon can also be used on live screens, and we're going to look at that. The spotlight.
Alexis, I'm sorry.
Yes. Yeah,
Alexis,
go ahead, Jonathan.
There's a request in chat if you could please zoom out.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently the whole screen is invisible.
Does that help?
I think she means the windows. Can you zoom out the PDF you're showing on your screen? Right?
I just zoomed out of it. Maybe it takes a minute.
Can you maximize the window?
Let's see.
The PDF, yes. Yeah.
Is that better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So this spotlight button, if you toggle it, so the spotlight itself makes a little red dot on your arrow. So it just spotlights where your arrow is going. But if you toggle it, you can create the arrow with your name on it, which is really useful because everybody else has that option, but the host has the toggle. And so we didn't know where the arrow with our name on it was. And then I figured it out. And then finally, the save button, and this is the last thing I'll say before we actually go to play. The save button saves the whiteboard, but it saves it initially, it opens up in your Zoom folder. You can choose a different folder to save the whiteboard as well. Also, you can just take a screenshot. So however you might want to take a screenshot is probably the easier way than downloading it, unless you want to save it for something. I don't know why I don't know what the difference is really, like conceptually. But the save button isn't instantaneous. You have to locate a place for it to download versus a screenshot where you could just take it and then use it. This is important for breakout rooms because the whiteboards in breakout rooms are not transferable to the main room. Whatever goes on in the breakout room stays in the breakout room. So if you know that phrase from Las Vegas and other stuff. So in the breakout room, let's say you have students or patrons doing a whole exercise separately in breakout rooms and you want to see their results and you want to share those results with the class. You can go into the breakout room or you can have somebody in the breakout room take a screenshot of it or save it. And then you can use that screenshot or saved file to display in the main room. We haven't figured out a workaround for that. That's essentially because also if you record the breakout room, it's a separate recording than the main recording. So the recording follows you. If you're recording, the recording is wherever you are. If you're in a breakout room, if you're in the main room, it's following you. So the same thing with the whiteboards. The whiteboard you're looking at is the location. It's either in the breakout room or it's in the main room. It's like going physically into a different room and using a different whiteboard. Cool? Cool, cool, cool. Okay, now I'm going to stop sharing this. You guys all have this. I think what else? Last two things. Here's the selections for clear. These are the immediate things you have to clear things immediately, and then you can stop them from sharing and annotating if they're being troublesome. And then this is where it saves in when you want to save the whiteboard, this is the path it took. So it went straight into my Zoom folder, but I could have chosen a different place to put it. Cool, that's what that PDF is. That's all the backstory. Now, I'm going to stop sharing. Now I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to choose whiteboard. And I'm going to select share. And now you guys should all see an annotation ribbon. And now you may play.
So, Alexis, there's a few questions if you want to catch up in chat. Can you
Does
see
everybody
it,
have the ability to
would you like me
draw?
to read it to you?
Yes.
So the first question is your opinion on whether you like whiteboard better than Google Doc for breakout rooms. Is it integration into Zoom that you like?
You know, the answer to that question is the comfort level and interest and assignment. I think I get into the habit of using screenshots, for example. I know a lot of people who use Snagit. They do the same thing, right? So whiteboard is great if you just feel like you need to really let's do it, let's talk about it, let's sketch it out. And you're able to manage what's happening because you can see what's happening. right? Google Docs, you can do all of this stuff. You have to, go to a different service. I guess that would be the only real difference, right? You have to go into Google Docs. Everybody has to have the link. Whereas this is everybody's able to get to it immediately. But I don't think they're that different in terms of effect. Now, I want everybody to go up to their arrow, because you can see I can make this arrow and it has my name temporarily. That's really great when you're trying to ask patrons to do something. Hey, who can show me where the smiley face is on the screen? Oh, I can, right? And then you can see who it is. When I do the highlight, the spotlight on the host's privilege, I get this little red dot, so it sort of helps me visually attend to something. I can use the eraser and I can be all, ha ha ha, terror, terror, do it again. Or I can clear my drawings. I can clear your drawings. It's like superpower.
One real quick
It looks as though some of us aren't able to see the drawing ribbon, me included actually, but at least two other people have posted.
Yes, so what you need to do is you need to move your cursor around until you see where it says you are screen sharing, or your screen is being shared by Alexis Pavenick. Or Alexis Pavenick is sharing her screen. You need to move your cursor around until you see the ribbon above that green indicator. And then I think on the more, once you see that ribbon, on the more you can say, like it should be hide video panel or hide floating meeting controls. Let's see. Yeah, so then it hides it. Oh my God, and then how do I get it back? Escape. Try escape. What happens if y'all push the escape button? Hello.
So nothing still from Sally.
Oh, Sally's still, okay, so we're still struggling with that.
So when I
Try
go,
minimizing your screen or maximizing your screen.
yeah, go to view options
Yeah.
and then annotate and you'll see it there.
Oh, excellent. View options and annotate. Oh, it's good. See, it's fun. The other thing that's nice is you can take a screenshot of this or save this, clear it, and do another one. So if we think about the Google Docs question again, I could put my question up here, right? If I'm on text, I can put my question. This is my first question. And then students or patrons underneath can be like, here's my answer, right? So it works nicely like Google Docs like that too. Further, oh, more questions. What are the questions? I gotta go. Yeah.
The questions
fun
are kind
part-
of related to, yeah.
Yes, Jonathan, what?
No, I'm just saying that the questions are still related to people struggling with not having the full capability to draw. So like someone comments that they see the annotate menu option, but it still doesn't allow them to draw. But it looks as though there might be some problem solving going on in chat. So maybe we can continue and try to address it later.
Okay. If you want to draw, like draw circles, you should, on the annotate, it should give you an option for draw, and then you can select your shape. I don't know if that answers the question. But keep that in mind because we're going to stick with the annotate. And again, I think this is just personal preference. It's a really nice feature of Zoom, but it really just decides if you want to use this or Google Docs, or we're going to look at Padlet, and Padlet's very similar. So, you know, there's so much software out there that really does the same kind of thing. it's hard to say which is better. It's just, I think it comes down to personal preference. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing, and this is going to go away. Bye. Bye.
Another question,
whiteboard.
Alexis.
What?
There's another question asking, how could you, well, now I'm missing it.
Oh,
put your name, I think,
add
next
your
to
name
it.
to the arrow. Oh, on the annotation ribbon, there is a button for arrow. It's called arrow, and it should have your name on it. We'll see it in just a second, Abby, because I'm gonna share, we're gonna annotate again. So that was whiteboard. And now
Esther mentions that students might be tempted to just go wild and keep drawing without paying attention to what's actually going on in class.
Yeah, well,
so
I mean,
how might you handle that?
Well, I think then you gotta erase everything, right? You gotta hit the button. I think it also helps if you prep them with, don't do these things, you know, like this is the plan that we have. This is what we're doing today. It also helps if you have the whiteboard pre-made. So if you go into the class early and you pre-make the questions on the whiteboard, and then they don't have as much imaginative opportunity to think, oh, I'm going to draw, you know? But yeah, or let's have fun and I'll clear it. Exactly. I think, Esther, that's a great point. You can just say, okay, everybody fuss around. And now I'm going to clear this and we're going to get to work. And then they get it out of their system. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with age. The class that my colleague had a problem with was all first years in college. They weren't used to, you know, what's it called? Professional behavior. They just didn't have a lot of skills in professional behavior. So I think and I don't think she said in advance, like, don't, you know, be professional. I think if you tell them that, it'll probably be working out. But I really love the idea of letting them play first and then getting down to business. So I'm going to share now my screen of my homepage of my library. And I want to show you how this works with live action jazz, because this is, I think, where the annotations really come in nicely. Okay. So everybody sees the home screen of my library? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So you have the option to select annotate from your active ribbon. It's the same set of choices you had before. But now I can ask students, hey, and I'm given an option for mouse, so it gets my mouse active. And I can say, hey, ding, where would I go if I wanted to enter a search? And I want you to use your arrow. And I want you to put, exactly. There you go. And then I can say, great. And now we're going to search bubbles. And now what you see is the annotations stay. You have to clear them. Exactly. Thank you, Pink. So now I have to clear everybody because I have the power. Thank you. Exactly. Perfect. So it's really nice if you can get them engaged in participating. This is a really nice way to have them live action participate in the search itself. And you have an option, by the way, when you're the host, to have anything they write, you can make sure their name is attached to it. So even these scribbles would have their name attached to it. So that might be another way to keep them from doing things that are inappropriate. And they have more responsibility because they see their names attached to their illustrations. Inevitably, someone will draw a penis if you let them. So you have to be aware of that. I know, it's the way of the world. You know, when I was young, it used to be Kilroy was here. Now it's penises. I mean, what could you do? Okay, so does everybody, so what questions do we have? What's left with questions? Let's see. I'm going to go back to the who's Kilroy. Yes.
I'm sorry, I had no clue. I had to ask.
Yeah, I date myself. I shall just suggest, I'm going to put it in the chat, that you Google Kilroy was here, and you will learn everything you need to know about that urban legend. It's not untoward. It's just a graffiti that went on for a really long time, especially on the East Coast. Oh, no, Abby. No, I will not draw. Not the artist, not in this location. But anyway, he's a character with a big nose, and he's always looking over like a wall. That's usually what he looks like. All right, so
We have a question, Alexis.
yes. Oh, thanks, Abby. It's from World War II GIs. Thank you for that. I didn't remember that, but now it's coming back to me. Yes, question.
Question from Janice. How many, I cannot read it, students do you usually have in, wait, not lose the
in
question.
class when you use the whiteboard?
Yes, and then there's another one. Does it take very long for people to catch onto the annotation, like what we just did?
No. I mean, as soon as they find the ribbon, they get it. It is, I think Esther's point of letting them play at the beginning also is the time to help them find the ribbon, like work through the ones who can't find it as easily, tell them to minimize or maximize their screen, you know, give them all the tips to kind of look for where it is, and then give them time to play with it. Okay, now everybody do a text. Now everybody do a squiggle. Now everybody do a heart stamp. If you have the time for that. Our classrooms run typically anywhere from 13 people to 102 at Cal State Long Beach, at least from my experience.
And how long do you usually have for your class? I'm guessing like 15 minutes or an
The
hour
typical class, if I'm given my full breadth, I get an hour and 15 minutes. A lot of people do it in 45. I believe the annotations do work on the mobile app, but we'd have to Google that to find out. But I think they can do it with a stylus or their finger. I know I have colleagues who do their classes in 45 minutes and then use the rest for questions. I'm usually doing demo and questions all the way through, so. Okay. Any other questions? I want to say my background, I don't know if I mentioned this the last time, but my background is actually this big. It's one of those miniature bookshops that my coworker put together and then took a picture of. So it's actually a really tiny bookshop. Just in case you were curious. Okay, we're going to move on now. We're going to see if I can share Nicolette's Padlet video. It's about 8.5 minutes long. Wish me luck. I am now going to try to share this. Oops. And I'm going to share computer sound. And feel free to put questions in the chat as they come up. If you cannot hear, her sound goes a little foggy right when she starts the demo. So if people are having problems hearing it and it's just too much trouble, let me know. Okay, and we'll just stop it. You guys have access to the video. I'll put the link in the chat and we can move on from there. Everybody ready? Yeah, okay.
Hi everybody, I'm filming this intro on my phone because the audio on my computer is not very good, I'm finding when I'm recording video. So today I'm going to be discussing how I use Padlet in library instruction. Overall, I think it's a really good whiteboard tool to use to kind of add some brief moments of interactivity when you are to break up lectures or demonstrations, database demonstrations. I usually use Padlet to facilitate icebreakers at the beginning of instruction. And then I've also used Padlet to demonstrate how to break up research questions into keywords. Personally, I use the free version of Padlet, which allows you to create 3 separate Padlets at a time, or always have active 3 separate Padlets at a time. But you can subscribe to Padlet for $10 a month, and you can make unlimited Padlets. So let's dive into my demonstration. So as you can see, I have 3 active Padlets currently here on my dashboard. First, I'm going to take you to my icebreaker Padlet right here. So this is what a Padlet looks like. It's kind of just like a bulletin. I have it look like a bulletin board, but it's just a wall, and you can add responses. So what I do is I share this link, copy into clipboard, to the Zoom chat, and then students click on the link and it brings them here to this page, right here. And I just ask them to answer this question. What was the last thing you researched? And you can switch up this question, of course, to whatever you want as your icebreaker. And then students just use this little plus icon down here to write in their answers. And that gives me the opportunity to kind of go through some of the answers with them. And, you know, it's been pretty fun to respond to what students have researched in the past. And so this kind of is a really good, you know, it's an alternative to being in person and just having students writing things on the board or something like that. So I'm next going to take you to, firstly I wanted to say that those student responses are anonymous, and students do not have to sign up to respond to a Padlet. Right here. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard. I've also used Padlet like this to break up to kind of demonstrate how students can break up a research question into key concepts. So what I do here is I do not share the link at first. What I do is I share my screen with students. I share my screen of this Padlet with students. And then I say, okay, within this research question, how are online users experiencing or addressing privacy on social networking sites like Instagram and Facebook? I ask them to pick out some keywords, key concepts they see in this question, and then I actually write them. So a student would say online users, and then I'd add this, and I'd add online users. And then a student would say social networking, and so I'd add social networking. And then after I've added the main concepts that students have identified in this question, I then share this link in the chat, and I ask students to add comments underneath each of the keywords, brainstorming similar concepts, narrower concepts, broader concepts, synonyms to these main keywords. And then this is the keyword chart that I use when I demonstrate a database. All right, so to make a Padlet, what you do is you're here on the main page, you just click Make a Padlet, and then you can click on any one of these templates. I usually use the wall feature. So you can select, and here you can change the title, the description, wallpaper, you can change color scheme. So you can also change the posting and the content settings, which is handy. So right now you see attribution, display author name above each post. So you can do that. You can either have that on or off. I usually keep it anonymous. You can allow viewers to comment on posts. So right now I don't have that option selected. So so you'll see that if I add something, we don't have the option to add a comment, but when I turn this on, students can now add a comment. or whoever has the link to this Padlet. You can also add reactions. You could either like or vote. You see it changing right here. Star, great. And then you can also do content filtering. You could require approval. I've never done this before. I do filter profanity. I've never done the approval before. These posts do come up in real time, so students are writing and you're seeing the posts come up as they write. So if you're concerned that students are going to post anything inappropriate, then you could require approval. I haven't had that experience, but I have had colleagues who have experienced students when they get the chance to be anonymous, typing inappropriate answers. And then you could filter profanity as well, right here. So I've mostly used the wall template, but you can use other templates. One that I have found to be interesting but haven't really used in instruction is the timeline. So if you go right here, this timeline, I just quickly kind of made a little something, the research process. So this would be the timeline right here. You can have students make a timeline interactively with each other, or you can do it beforehand. And so if you go here, select, make a timeline, you can add little spots on this timeline. So there are a bunch of other really cool templates that you could use: grid, stream, canvas, shelf, back channel, map, timeline. And you could either be as creative or straightforward as you want with this. So I'm going to just go back into this. You can have students, if you click on these three little dots, you can have students upload a picture from their computer. You can have students take a picture in real time. You can have students look things up on Google. So if I wanted cats, the images, that comes up as one of my posts. You can also capture video from your camera, do a voice recording, record your screen and have it up here, draw, which is fun. Sing. All right. So there are kind of a bunch of cool things that you can have students do here. I use it pretty as a straightforward whiteboard. I haven't really played around with the more creative side of Padlet, but it could be fun to do in instruction. And that's pretty much all I have to show you all today. So thank you for coming on this journey through Padlet with me, and I hope you've learned a few tips to take forward in your own instruction.
I'm on mute. I'm telling you, I'm going to make that t-shirt. It's going to say, "You're on mute" on the front, and "I'm on mute" on the back.
Have you heard about the jokes coming from people who do like seances, or, who supposedly can talk to the dead or things like that? That Zoom is a lot like talking to the dead. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you see me?
I mean, there's a lot. I think this is, I feel like there's people in like really, really high priced jobs who fly all over the world and have these conference calls, and they've been having them for decades. And everybody is like, everybody in that career is like, what's the big deal? Meanwhile, we're like, this is so weird and it's so virtual. Ding, when I make the design, I'll let you know. Or maybe a card. "You're on mute." Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on mute. Cards of the pandemic. Oh, make myself laugh. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to try out Padlet. I got to tell you right from the get-go here that I am not a Padlet expert. I have an account. That's like as far as I got. So I'm going to share my Padlet with you guys, and it's free, as with everything, like Nicollette said, you get X amount of canvases for free, and then if you want more, you can pay $10 a month, which quite frankly is a lot if you think about it. So but the default canvas, and I will share my screen now. Oh, now I have to share. Okay, so I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this by sharing my screen and doing it. Oh, it's meta. It's a lot happening. I did not name it my funky canvas, but I will say that if I had thought about it, I might have named it that. But Padlet has a lot of kind of quippy elements. So here's my really super plain canvas, and it's just a basic whiteboard. And I'm going to go over here to share like she did. And I'm going to copy the link to the clipboard. And now if I go to the chat, if I can find chat again. Where are you, chat? Honestly, where are you? I don't understand why things go away. I see it, but I can't get there. Oh.
Alt H.
Yeah. Oh, that's bad. What just happened? Not good. Hang on. All right, who can help me? This is a good example of how things go horribly wrong. It happens every time.
Are you still looking for chat?
Well, I see the chat button, but it's not letting me, it's not showing me the chat.
Look, I say hold the Alt and Alt key and H key. So it brings up, it should bring up the chat. Then make sure it's Alt that you're pressing. Okay. Alt H.
Oh, it seems to want to go to my login.
Huh, that's weird.
Okay, hang on. Hold please. Oh, there it was. Well, okay. Well, you saw where I found the share. I'm going to just get the, I'm going to get the link right now. And I'm going to put it in the chat so everybody can go to this link. It should not ask you to log in. You should just be able to get straight to my, my big thing here. All right. So Ding or Angela or Jonathan, would you monitor the chat for me? Because clearly I'm having issues.
I got it.
Sure. Oh, goody. There you all are. People are joining. Excellent. So the little three dots are always like the bigger help. And then if I do the, you know, where I want to save it, that kind of thing. But it's the little gear that gives me all the options. So one of the questions was, if I allow comments, where did she put, oh, reactions, grade, max grade 100. So everybody give it a grade, see what happens. Oh, save, keep working. Save. Can we grade things now? Hey, I give it an 82. I mean, maybe it's just for us, for entertainment. I'm not sure. But I love the cat. You know, who doesn't want a cat picture? So now, notice how I can move stuff around. Can you guys move your own thing around? Barbara's like, what do you mean by that?
Yes, you can.
Can you move other people's things around? Can you move other people's cheeses?
No.
So there you go. Now I'm going to go back to this and I'm going to filter for profanity. Why that's funny, I don't know. And now I want people to try to do something profane. Can I do something profane? Oh, that was awesome. Try that again. Do another, try to do SHI. So now we have, you know, there are boons here. There's lots of fun things that you can, this is probably a steeper learning curve. This is a little bit more like you'll have to work around with this. And this is a great thing to, if you make your free account and you get just a rudimentary elements of information, and then you share it with your faculty or your colleagues in a show and tell, and then everybody starts playing and deciding like what works, what doesn't, what's exciting, what's not. This would be a wonderful way in to a show and tell series, because clearly it's a ton of fun. And I wonder, you know, just from our own experience, if we're having more fun. Because we already had some fun, but is this more fun? I don't know. And remember too, that there's a lot of, if I go back to Padlet for a second, you guys are like, what? I love how the annotations are still here. You know, there's a lot of options like Nicollette was showing us. So there's a lot of reasons to explore this with colleagues, because I'm not sure that everybody would have time to do it on their own. But if you did it as a group, or you even did it as a group assignment, like, hey, try out the stream, try out the timeline, and let's get together and talk about what we learned. It's a really nice avenue into sharing for meetings, sharing for students, sharing for patrons. It's free, padlet.com. And the last thing I want to put in, I'm going to stop my sharing. I'm sorry, I'm ruining all the fun. And I'm going to give you the last thing I want to offer you is this library guide, my library guides that we made. And I offered it last time as well. And this is just a reference. This is a library guide that the librarians and I put together of educational tools that we know how to use. At least one of us knows how to use. So we gave this to all of our faculty and said, hey, if you guys want to learn to use these things and you're playing around with them and you have questions, give us a shout out and we'll try to work with you to how to use them. We didn't put in anything that none of us knows, but there are 2 links at the top are huge lists of other educational tools that are out there. So please feel free to use that. Bookmark it, share, you know, use those things. And I was talking last time, and I mentioned earlier about Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is really great because you can take a YouTube video and you can add questions to it. So you stop the video and quiz them on what they've seen, and then the video moves on. And that's the whole thing about Edpuzzle, is it does it with streaming video, mostly for YouTube. It's integrated with Google and Google Classroom, but it works really nicely. Oh, and you're very welcome. I'm really, really glad to share these things because I don't know about you guys, but I'm, you know, we're work from home for all of next semester. So I've got to develop some innovation of things. Are there any other questions? Because we are at 1:30. And
Brianna had something about how she can't draw or grade or access shared screen. Oh, it just moved. Or access shared screen to write something. I have selected annotation and a shape or arrow. I don't know if I have reclaimed my mouse. I'm guessing that has to do with Padlet.
Was that on Padlet that happened, or on Brianna, was that on Padlet or whiteboard? Padlet?
In both.
Oh, in both. I mean, honestly, that's the kind of thing that I would like turn my computer off and on again. I'm not sure why that would be if you couldn't access either of them. Do you need batteries? And does your mouse have batteries? Maybe your mouse isn't as responsive as it needs to be. I don't know.
And Esther had that same problem too, as she was trying to do that on the shared screen rather than directly on the Padlet. Oh, it was on a shared screen. Is that what it was? Do you think?
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm sorry. It's not your mouse at all. No, it's me. Yes, you have to do it on the Padlet on your browser. Yeah. Yeah. Padlet's its own thing, padlet.com. So you had to have go to the browser. Because otherwise you're trying to annotate. I mean, you could technically annotate on the shared screen, but you would be using Zoom. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay. Yeah. One was behind the other window, Esther says. Yeah. Oh, you're very welcome. Yay.
Thank you for doing this.
Yes, thank you. And I really hope you guys, go forth and create your own communities. And I think the thing that Nicollette and I really want to impart in the biggest picture is that it we have found a lot of benefit from making it really relaxed and consistent. So it was every 2 weeks. It was always at the same time, the same day. It was Tuesdays at 1. It was a repeat Zoom. I sent out 2 notifications, one the Tuesday before, and then one a week before, and then one the day before. Always with the link, always with what's going to be happening today. And I tried to make it lively, like hot topics today and featured guests, even though it was just our faculty. It wasn't featured guests, it was people we work with. Featured guest, Joseph, who's going to talk about his experience with LibWizard. And always sending a thank you note to anybody who demonstrated, really just created community. And I'm really glad to share like what we learned about whiteboard and I'm answering Janice now. I would say like 10% of my classes are synchronous, because at the beginning of the shutdown, I made 10 videos, and I have this big long handout that I give to people. It's the 8 steps to research. And so I made a video for every one of the steps and then some extra videos. And so I did a little bit like a flipped classroom where I told my faculty, I really need you guys to have them watch these videos. And if they need follow-ups, then I will do a class. But if they don't, because essentially my concern about synchronous classes was that a lot of students are on their phones. So when we're in person, they come to the library, they're in a lab, they're all sitting at computers. I'm at the front of the thing with a big screen where my computer is being displayed. I'm able to walk around and help them all individually. And a synchronous class for me just doesn't work in the same way. So the videos were really where I put my energy. And now usually I do, in the before times, I did about 55 instruction sessions a semester over 16 weeks. And I did 6 synchronous. I don't know if they actually watch the videos, but I do know that I've asked the professors to make it worth points. You can see the number of hits I get on YouTube because they're all on YouTube. If I made a LibWizard, or if I made a Edpuzzle and asked the class to do it, so they'd have to sign in with their emails, I could collect that data and make sure that they did it. And so could the professor. In the bigger picture, though, I do a tremendous number of consultations. I do email consultations, Zoom consultations. There's a lot of one-on-one work that I do. And I think that's the difference, is whereas before I was doing everything in the classroom, the physical classroom, now I do a lot of just one-on-one stuff that I didn't do as much of before. I think I've done 60 consultations this semester, The flipped classrooms, you really need buy-in from the teacher. That's the biggest issue. if you don't get buy-in from the teacher, you can't promise that they're going to do the work before you see them. And so I had teachers that I felt very confident, professors I felt very confident in, who made sure the students watched it. In fact, some of them had the students watch the videos in class, and then the next class I visited. So they had technically like 2 sessions of me. But yeah, I think my next step is to translate all those videos into like quiz-based interactive objects, because right now they're just straight up videos. They were important to me because then the students can pause them, they can zoom in, they have control over them. You know, I didn't want to give them a lack of control because everything's so out of control anyway. But not all the, I mean, I have colleagues who've done only synchronous stuff. Nicollette, they require her to do synchronous stuff. She's taught, I think she had between 70 and 80 classes this semester, and they were almost all synchronous. So that's why she's developed all of these, like, let's use Padlet, let's use Google Docs. Like, she's trying to get them engaged and to keep herself engaged. I feel like I was talking a lot just then to myself.
This is so helpful.
All very quiet.
And thank you for everyone for staying still to engage in this conversation. Feel free to leave the session. I'm gonna definitely email everyone with the recording when it's ready. But we do have a feedback form if you want to give us any thoughts, or just let us know if you want to present or volunteer with us.
Oh, and let me put my email if you have questions for me that were not answered in the, and feel free, you know, in the follow-up email to give my email out to everybody. That's my email address, and this is my, I'll give you my main, this is the LibGuide that I use for most of my stuff because I teach English 100, which is basic composition. And as you know, there's nary an English major in basic comp. So even though I'm the English teacher, like some of the biggest parts of my population are not English majors or lit majors at all. But you can see my videos and how they match up with my handout. The handout is very dense, be advised. The purpose of the handout when I print it in person, it's got a line down the middle so you can fold it because it's visually quite dense. But the videos match the handout. So just for your own edification, if you want some ideas.
Just one real quick comment from Lorena. We are just mesmerized by your talk, Alexis. You and your team are wonderful.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, we're really happy to present for you. I know Nicollette was really sad to miss today. And I want to tell you that it's just such a pleasure. And I love librarianship community. I feel like we're all in it together. And I look forward to the next LILi.
Alexis, I just wanted to share with you in the group that I've done when I do Zoom and I use PowerPoint, sometimes I'll add a blank page and then I'll say, everyone get your annotate and tell me what your keywords are, or what is your, what's your research topic? Or I'll create a table, like a true or false question, sort of a Jeopardy game.
Yes.
And then I'll say, is this an academic journal? And I'll describe, or maybe I'll describe what an academic journal is. And then they either check mark, is it a magazine or is it an academic journal? And they'll just check mark. Although I think some students wait for others.
Of course.
And they'll go, oh, we'll go with the
first?
majority vote. So it's fun to use it.
So Esther asks if they can directly annotate on your PowerPoint slide, or are you annotating on the shared screen? Is it like a Google slide?
I'm sharing, it's on the shared screen.
Oh, okay. So they're annotating on the shared screen.
Yes. And then I clear it up because then if I move on to the next PowerPoint slide, I realize, oh, wait, the drawings
they're
are
still there. Yeah. And I think that's exactly, you know, it's such a great thing you're describing because it's however it's going to work for you. It's your workflow. So all of the ideas together, you know, it seems overwhelming, but if you step back and you say, okay, I really like that idea, I'm going to try that. Or maybe this might work better for me. It's really whatever works. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful idea, and I might implement it myself. I love that blank screen idea. And the Jeopardy game is really popular. In fact, there's a Jeopardy online game that you can make for yourself, I think. I can't remember if I put that on EduTools. Let's see. Did I put the Jeopardy game? Yes, the Jeopardy app. It's under interactive quiz makers.
Alexis, I was going to ask you something. Sometimes I hesitate using Padlet and other resources because they go outside of the Zoom. Do you lose students, or I know it works for me because I have a double screen. I have the two monitors and it's nice, but I realize students will need a toggle back and forth. Do you ever run into any issues?
You know, yes and no. I think technology, first of all, I'm just going to back up for 1 second and say, I don't believe that students who have native technology actually, that it makes it easier for them. You know, just because they were born with technology doesn't necessarily mean that they understand it fluidly. They don't practice it in the same ways that we do. So yeah, they might not know how to use Snapchat really well, but that movement you're talking about could be jarring for them. I feel like the biggest issue, and this is true in person, but even more so in an online class, especially a live one, it just takes time. You just need time to make sure everybody's caught up. So for the handful of students who are a little bit confused, everybody just needs to have a little patience. And if you feel like that's going to be stressful, then stay in Zoom, use the whiteboard, you know, just like you do. You know, you've got your setup so that you're using all these different technologies and different softwares, but they're only seeing one thing. And I think that's wonderful. I think that's totally streamlined. But yeah, I mean, yes, the actual answer to the question is yes. I've seen students struggle and I've just walked them through it, and everybody has to kind of, you know, sit back for a second and wait until everybody's caught up. But I mean, I have, as you've seen, I'm sure I have a kind of big personality. So I'm all right, let's get this worked out. What's going on? You know, so I'm not like, you know, I'm trying to engage with them and make it kind of lively, even though we're slowed down.
Here's one question from Marcia, and I'm not sure if it has to do with this particular video that we're recording right now, or you mentioned creating videos for the flipped classroom. I don't know if Marcia, you want to.
Oh no, I think that it was answered that the guide that she showed us goes to some of the videos. I mean, I haven't looked at the guide yet, but I copied and pasted it into a document and all the links in chat are in my document now. So I assume that I'll get that answer by following the URL that was pasted.
Yes, and it'll take you out to my YouTube channel.
Right. Okay.
And all I did was, it's just screen capturing. You know, I do a 30-second intro. Hello, Dr. P here again with another, what are we learning today? And then after 30 seconds of the intro, I go, it's just a follow along. You know, they're watching me do it. And I do that through Camtasia. Yes, Esther, I agree with you. Using their phones, are they comfortable with toggling? Is this not going to work? You know, I think any kind of those questions at the front end can save you a lot of time. Although I will say they get very quiet, right? They get quiet about what they're comfortable with. And I take classes. I mentioned this in the last LILi as well. I take classes at Long Beach City College. I'm writing a novel, so I'm in a novel writing class. It's a feminist epic fantasy novel. And when I'm in class with the students, I act like a student. I try not to out myself as an educator because I want to participate. And they, you know, they're on their phones, they have their videos off, you know, most of the time. Is chat included in the recording? That might be a question for Ding and Jonathan and Angela.
Yes, so I'll be sure to save a chat. I'm not sure we can send it out, but if people want to email us asking the chat, I can let you know. I'll be sure to save that list. And I'll be adding the links that Alexis have been sharing to the website. So obviously we have those on the website. I like how people are staying over time. They're mesmerized by you. They do not want to leave.
The videos have been interesting because I think one of the successful elements of my videos is that we've all watched follow along videos, right? I mean, for everything we're trying to do. And one of the things that I think I imparted in my videos is the same thing that I try to do in these scenarios, is just to be really present and personable. Like I'm not doing, like I haven't scripted this out. I know what I'm doing. I have an outline and I'm just gonna edit it. It'll be fixed in post, right? Which is the LA words phrase of fixing everything. It's gonna be fixed in post. But when I was doing the videos and I was doing them back to back, I was getting a little like crazy because it was so much work, you know? So there is a point where I start to like make fun of myself in the video. I started one video with, so. Have I said so in every video that I've made so far? Should I be using low? Or maybe the old English, what? And then I put little call outs that spelled these things out. And then I had the final call out was, okay, Dr. P, get it together. Let's move on. So I think these kinds of things are really, I advocate for them in our materials during this time, because I think anything that makes you human undermines the distance, you know, the fact that we're not in person with each other. That would be my suggestion. I don't know if that works for everybody. I don't know if everybody feels comfortable with that, but I found a lot of positive feedback. One of my videos starts with that we have a big OneSearch federated search from the Cal State system. And, you know, I don't use it very often. I try to have students go straight to the databases first for their searches. And so I have this whole entry that says, now we're going to look at this box, but I want you to elude, evade, eschew, and ignore this box. And when I did a follow-up class, one of the students said, why do we have to elude, evade, eschew, and ignore this box? And he repeated the whole thing. And it was just really sweet. You know, it was like they were like, he remembered it. And he was like, why is this? I want to know why. And I was like, let me tell you why. And yeah, so I think it makes it fun if you think you're going to do follow-ups with them to make the videos themselves sort of lively. If you can. I mean, I don't know. I feel like I really respect everybody using their own personality in the way that they find most effective. But I was a teacher for a long time before I became a librarian, and I taught first year composition and I taught literature and in college. And, you know, you get used to being on stage at some point, but I can only play myself. Just letting you know.
Thank you so much for sharing. And this has been awesome. I learned a lot, and it's good to see those questions of those things that I did not think about before. Thank you everyone for joining us. I see some of you have to leave for another meeting, and thank you for all the great questions and the support.
Yes, thank you guys for all the support. I'm putting a thank you.
Yeah,
and please do email me if you have, you know, if you have specific questions you'd like to ask me directly. I'm happy to answer them.
And we'll be sending out the a survey first, but definitely the recording as well.